Hello viewers, welcome to CodeForAny. Fruit markets, Flutter apps inside. Today need to add this here the common library every project needs. So need to configure here and some common functions we need to write down for the related to share preference. So need to creating here and also need to integrate here the loaders of the API calls. Need this here the common things. So need to needs every project. That's why I need to first of all these configurations and then after so need to tomorrow to start this here the API calls. First of all, need to create here the import some library. We need to need here for this here the commons class. We need to need here. Need to one by one install here. First of all, need to need this here the share preference libraries. Then after the initial library, and then after need to need this here the catch network image library also needs. Then after the Flutter time zones library needs here, and then after need to image pickers also need to needs here, and Timeago library also needs. Now we need to installing this here the one by one. So need to install here. First of all, need to share preference library. We need to install here. Now need to go installation to share preference, and now need to copy here this share preference and to paste this here for this library. Need to import here. Then after the init library also need to install here the versions. So need to like here need to set here and we need to save this here, and now need to check here the logs gets any errors. Maybe here 19th version is good like this told. That's why I need to use this here the 19, and we need to save here. Likes need to put here and to updating here and remove this here the updates like this sets here. Then after need to catch network image also need to import here. Need to save here and like this here, and we need to save import working goods here time zones. Now same image need to install here Flutter time zones, and image pickers also need to put here like years and time ago. And now we need to iOS related the image pickers. We need to need this here the some permissions we need to add here. Now need to go inside the iOS projects and to runner projects. Need to find out here the info p list, and we need to importing this here the two lines of the camera permissions as well as to photo library permissions. We need to put here. Now need to setting here. Now need to open this here these files and need to write down here these permissions. Now we need to copy and paste for these permissions for the photo related and camera permissions. Now need to first ones need to give this here the need these permissions for the camera. Now need to paste here. Same as now need to give this here the access for the photo libraries, and we need to save this here. And same as we need to create here the permissions for the Android apps for the camera. Need to give this here the camera permissions, and externals read externals write storage need to also need to give these two permissions. Also need to needs for the saving here the image. Now need to go inside here the Android folder, select here the app, and now select here the source files. Go inside here mains and to find out here the Android manifest files, and we need to write here the permissions for the related to here's. Now need to first ones need to give this here the internet's camera permissions as well as need to read access network status. Also need to needs here. Now need to set like this here the permissions, and we need to save this here. This for permissions need to needs access status like need to set for the image pickers need to done here. Now this is configurations are the needs for the image library. Need to needs here the image pickers. Now this is all library are the inputs are the done, and now need to calling here the one by ones. Need to write down here. First of all need to use this here the lazy loading. So need to create here the loaders. We need to also import one forget this library. We need to import here the library. Need to install this here, and one last library we need to import here the loading screens. We need to use this here the Flutter EasyLoadings library. Need to use here. Now need to paste here for this library and to save this here. Now this is the importance the or needed common library. You need to import here, and we need to first of all the creates here the loader configurations. We need to set here for this UI. Need to configure here, and now need to develop here the HTTP override class. We need to creating here. First of all, we need to needs here. Now need to write down here the comments inside. We need to create here the new files and to override this here the API calls. We need to my HTTP colons and override dot dots files like this creates here. Now we need to import dot io class like here. Now we need to create here the class, and we need to set here the my HTTP overrides like this. We need to create here and to extend, and we need to write down here the HTTP overrides like here. We need to write down here and we need to call this here the create clients override this methods. We need to creating here returns inside. We need to give this here the context dots. We need to call this here bad certificates callbacks is equal to need to write down here the brackets inside the x 509 certificates. We need to give this here the CRT like here's. Then after the give this here the string is need to give this here the host, and then after we need to int and to set this here the port, and we need to set here the true like this. We need to write here for this here the calling here. We need to read this here the certificates and parameters. We need to putting here for this data like here's. Now need to save, and this is the override class. We need to write down here the done here. Same as now need to go inside here the main dots io, and we need to first of all the declares here the one global variables. We need to set here the before the main class. Need to put here, and we need to write down here the share preference like here's, and to optionals we need to set here the preference like here's, and also need to initialize this here the HTTP override first of all. Override dot globe is equal to need to write down here the my override class. Need to assign here. Then after need to write down here the widgets gets dot need to widgets flutters binding dot ensure initialize like we need to write down here the functions, and we need to call this here the assigns methods. We need to write down here, and then after need to creating like here the initialize this preference is equal to need to call this here the await functions, and we need to write down here the share preference dot get instance methods. We need to call here like here. We need to configures for this data. We need to needs here and make sure we need to initialize here the socket because managers socket manager dots init share dot init socket methods. We need to call here share methods initialize these here. And now this is the configurations for the share preference. You need to needs here and to configures. Then after need to create here the loader configurations. Also need to configure here. First of all need to write down here the config functions. Need to write down here the config loaders. Need to write down here the void functions config and loading like here. Need to set here. Now need to use this here the instance. We need to call this here the methods. Need to calls after here the run apps. We need to config loadings like this methods. Need to calling here for this here. Now need to write down here the easy loading methods. Need to calls and to get this here the instance. Then after need to configure this here the indicators type is equal to need to set this here the easy loading types set dot here the ring types we need to configures. Then after we need to configure here the loading types. Loading styles is equal to need to set this here the loading styles dot we need to set here the custom. Then after so need to set here the indicators size value need to also set here the 45.0. Then after you need to configure this here the radius you need to set this here the pi of this loaded 5.0. Then after you need to set here the progress bar colors you need to set this here the t colors. You need to set this here the primary text. Then after you need to configure this here the background colors also need to configure here for this loader is equal to need to write down here the t color dot primary set here. Then after we need to configure this here the indicator colors is equal to need to set here the color white colors dot white like here. Then after we need to configure this here the text color is equal to need to write down here the text colors we need to set this here the primary text. Then after we need to set this here the user interface need to by default need to set here the false. And last ones we need to configure this here dismiss top need to set here the false. Like we need to loading configurations we need to need here and to configure here. Now we need to creating here the builders class also need to integrate here for this UI. Home after need to set here the builder and we need to set this here the easy loading dot init init like this we need to call here easy loading init initialize this here. Like we need to configure for the every UI we need to set here and these configurations are the needs for here. Now we need to go inside here the globe files and we need to write down here the some common functions we need to and some other things we need to declaring here for this app calls. First of all we need to declare here the app names already set here. Now need to declare here the some other things static const and to user payloads for the saving any data inside the shared preference key. We need to reference we need to give this here. Use this here the users underscore loader payload like here. Another static methods need to declare here for the user logins flags. We need to using this here the this flag to need to save inside here the user are logins or false true. We need to value need to save inside here the user login like here. So need to declare here. Now we need to globes files inside. We need to write here the some commons methods. We need to write here the show HUD, hide HUD, and like this here the share preference relate the save set set strings bull set like this set preference related to creating here the some functions for the commonly used here. Now we need to write down here the static void and we need to write down here the show HUD like here and we need to create here the brackets. Then after we need to write down here the optionals. We need to pass here string as need to give this here the status and by default we need to give this here the value as a loading dots like this value need to put here for the loading agents methods need to write down here and to call this here the await future delay need to call here and we need to give this here the const dot duration and we need to set this here the millisecond set here the one semicolons like here's and we need to call this here the easy loading methods we need to call here the show and pass here the status as a status key like the sets here. Same as now need to develop this here the static void hide HUD functions need to create here. Now need to write down here the easy loadings dot dismiss functions need to call here for the HUD head and show methods need to write down here. Now need to some methods not need to write down here the related to shared preference inside the save data like string, booleans, integers, floats like this need to declare here some files inside the save and read for the need to using this here the share preference. Now need to write down here the share preferences at some methods static void and to write down here the UD set and to write down as a dynamic data set here the string and to give this here the key names like here the right here the functions where need to write down here the JSON string. First ones need to convert into the string this data. JSON dots need to write down here the encode and to pass this here the data and convert into the JSON string. And now we need to use this here the share preference and to save like this data set string. Need to import this here the main dot dots set string methods we need to calls and to give this here the key as a key and value as I need to give this here the JSON string. And now this is our the done here the calling here. Same as now need to write down here the string methods need to copy here for the string set str set string set need to write down here the ud string set methods need to call here. Now need to pass here the string data like here and we need to directly use this here and to give this here the data. Now need to save. Same as now need to set here the bool. Write down here the bool flags inside we need to save. Set here the bool types and we need to set here the set bool. Same as integers and double int and here to write down here the double like here's need to set double and set integers like this need to declaring here for the these common types need to use inside the saving share preference. Now need to set here the types integers and here's double like here. Now we need to retrieve this data inside here the methods need to static dynamic ud value and we need to set here the string need to set here the key and we need to return this here the JSONs decodes and we need to share preference question marks we need to set here the get key names like yours as we need to return this here the string optionals if not found time to blank brackets need to returning here for the converting inside the JSON decodes. That's why I need to use this here. Same as now need to write down here the UD string value need to return here's value as a string like here's need to write down here the get preference like here's and to get string methods need to call here's and return this here the string and return as a blank value like we need to calling this here this data need to set here's like same as now we need to write down here the string here. Now need to write down here the bool get bool and we need to by default need to set here the false like here. And another methods we need to get this here the default value need to set here the true. That's why I need to give this here the ud value true bool and to set here the true like here's same as integers integers get int set here the 0 for integers Same as we need to get here the double value, double, like here's get double, and return this here double value, and we need to set this here the bool, here bools, and here set here the int, and here set here the double. Like, so we need to returning this here the value. And last ones we need to removing this key specifics. We need to write down here the static void ud remove, and we need to set this here the string, set here the key. Need to write down here the preference question mark, and to remove methods we need to calls and to give this here the key value and removing this here. Now we need to relate it to time zones methods. We need to get here the time zones. So need to getting here. So now need to set here the statics, future strings, and to get this here the time zone names. We need to returning this here these functions. Need to write down here the time zone. Here's since methods. We need to set here and try catch, and if here the returns blank, if not found, then to get here the blank. Now to write down here the returns and to call this here the await flutters time zones dots. We need to get this here the get local time zones, and we need to save here. Like these methods are the needs here and to declaring here. Now need to creating here the some common keys. So need to declares and message class also need to develop here. Class is set here the key, and we need to need this here the static const payload is equal to need to write down here the payload, like here static const, and we need to write down here the status is equal to need to write down here the status same as message is equal to write down here the message, like here so we need to write down here, and one more last ones need to set here the const auth token, like here, and to set this here the auth underscore token key, like so need to write down here this is the commonly key every API inside use. This is the common response. That's why I need to declare this in eCommerce. And later need to calling this here the one by one. So need to key added here, and to managing this here the every projects for if you change one key, automatically every project inside the change. Now const, and to set this here the another class for message, we need to success message and fail message also need to setting here for declares here the const success is equal to need to write down here the success semicolons. Then same as const dot, so need to call this here the fail is equal to need to write down here the fail semicolons. Now need to save here and set this here. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new user, so please subscribe my channels and press the notification bell icon. You can get every new video notifications and awesome content. If you have any question, so please write down the comment sections. I will help you and sort out your issue. Everyone have a nice day. Goodbye and take care.